Long time no see, subscribers. Just a little heads up before I go into this video. I'm going to be more strict and different with how I put my clips on my videos because the My Hero Iceberg video was a nightmare to get up because it was constantly blocked. So if my images or videos look a little blurred or distorted, I'm very sorry. I'm just trying out new ways to avoid copyright. But other than that, let's get going. This video is going to be short, so stick around. In the 2000s, anime as we know it was in its renaissance age. Not only has its production gotten way better than what we've seen in the 90s, but it was taking the world by storm. Everywhere you look, you'd see kids gushing about the newest episode of Naruto or Dragon Ball, channels scrambling to get the rights to air them like Cartoon Network did with Bleach. And with the internet in the line of fire, it was about to blow up to an astronomical level with the birth of fandoms, art, community tabs everywhere. Nowadays, we do see anime talked about heavily. I mean, look at my channel, but compared to it being mainstream in the 2000s, not really. People don't talk about Naruto or Bleach as they did because they come and gone, and many classic stuffs like Shaman King or my favorite Hitman Reborn just got lost to time and forgotten. Others seem to cling on to new remakes or different adaptations like Dragon Ball Super or Boruto, but other than that, you don't really see them talked about popularly nowadays. However, there was one well-known anime that withstood the test of time. One that was unique in its own way compared to the others. One that non-weebs enjoy and otakus enjoy equally. And that anime is Death Note. If you ask anyone what Death Note is, they're most likely gonna remember it but not know it and say they never watched anime but love Death Note, or just true hardcore weeb like, well, me. Created by Sugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata and released in 2003 in Shonen Jump, the series has gotten massive praise, selling 30 million copies worldwide, getting an 8.63 on my anime list, 3 Nintendo DS games and other games, getting 2 live-action movies that were only released in Japan, no other live-action movies, a musical, merchandise, plush toys, KFC, you name it. And while other anime fans say that this compares to nothing like juggernauts like Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, and now Demon Slayer, the thing is, compared to other grossing franchises, it's this unique way that got there. And when I mean unique, I mean the story of Death Note and how unique it is. Instead of profiting off of flashing colors, power-ups, battles, power fantasies, what Death Note prides itself in is suspense and critical thinking. Spoilers for Death Note, I highly recommend you watch it before watching this video. Other than that, you have been warned. If you watched or read Death Note, you'll know that its strongest point is how it handles conflict in the story, and this is done so well by Obata's art, Obe's writing, and the anime's portrayal of such. When you think of characters confronting each other, whether it's ideology or for protection of one person's life, you think of punches, power-ups, screaming, and a beautiful array of punches, kicks to make a fight scene. Death Note, on the other hand, doesn't believe in that. Instead, it uses strong visuals, tense stares, and good and motivated characters and great atmospheres to show the conflict. This point is proven in the first few episodes where Light and L try to one-up each other. Their lives and justice are on the line, and one bad move can lead them to their death. But compared to other animes like Dragon Ball, no one lifts a finger except for writing or typing in a computer. In fact, L and Light aren't even in the same room. Instead, we are given the characters' thoughts. We are given their beliefs, their goals, their motives, and their plans. Each is presented in a way that challenges the other, and this is shown physically when it comes to Light and L being pictured on the tower, which is shown in the opening, showing that they're both on equal pedestals, but one gotta fall. Another good factor about this is it also adds the mental strength that is needed to combat each other. Both are highly intelligent and the top of who they are. It wouldn't be easy for a normal person, but with Light and L both equal in IQ, it's gonna be an impressive fight. And it can't be done with fighting or weapons or anything. It has to be with their minds, and that's what Death Note knows. It can't be another battle shonen. It has to be one that emphasizes their mind and their thoughts rather than just punches and kicks. Plus, another positive aspect about it is that with physical fights in anime, it has a lot of budget going into it. Not just movements of arms, but special effects, the outlines, etc. It requires a lot. And as time goes on, so does visual animation. So when you look back at fights from the 90s like Yu Yu Hakusho or the original Dragon Ball Z, they look impressive of the time, but it pales compared to newer and bolder fights. Like Goku vs Frieza can't really be put on a pedestal compared to newer fights. Let's say Deku vs Overhaul, Tanjiro vs Rui, Netero vs Meridian. They have shown their age. So it really is more of a product of its time rather than just a comparison of what's the best battle. This is where Death Note's strength is shown. It's uncomparable, it's unique, it's separate from the other shonens, and it really makes it much more enjoyable because you're seeing something refreshing, something new, something darker. If there's one thing Death Note loves, it's dramatic irony. We have a bunch of characters believing that there's a distinct line between right and wrong, but any good audience knows there's no such thing. We know the formula for most stories is protagonist versus antagonist, but with this show, it depends more on what are your morals. The characters in Death Note aren't meant for us to love or enjoy because of what they are in the story, but rather what they bring to the table and what they believe. Light Yagami, for example, is our protagonist, and although cunning, charismatic, and really smart, he's not someone we would root for in real life, as he's a manipulative person, he's distrustworthy, and an overall bad guy. Some examples is how he mistreats Misa, has his own father die in vain, and you can't forget about the cruel murder of Naomi Misora, which is one of the saddest parts of early Death Note itself. L, which has a less body count than Light, isn't so much of a perfect angel himself. Yeah, he's cute and he's awkward, but he's also really immature and really persistent, and that's not something you would see a detective have that much in reality. These characters have bad personality flaws and their morals are sometimes warped, but that's perfectly okay. As much as people want a good protagonist to not only seem like a hero in everyone's eyes and have minimal personality flaws, having characters that have multiple problematic actions on their list as a way to get them to achieve their goals is fascinating, as instead of wanting one character to beat up another, it's deciding what would be best for your interests. This idea also bleeds into the characters of the anime, as they question both sides, such as Matsuda thinking, should Kira really be arrested? Or is Mello's kidnapping of the police chief really justified in finding who Kira is? We don't know what these actions really are, but that's okay. That's for you to decide whether or not these characters are good, not just the story telling you what's good or bad. Speaking of the characters, whether you watch Death Note or not, you can't deny how big they are in anime as a whole. Some becoming staples like Light, L, and Misa. They're just so iconic that anyone could recognize them, anime or not. However, there's one character that I loved while watching that doesn't get the recognition she deserves, and that character is Rem. Rem is Misa's Shinigami who follows her after she receives the second notebook in the human world. Rem reveals to Misa that the only way to kill a Shinigami is to fall in love with the human. What she meant was, as a Shinigami, you can't increase someone's lifespan or else that lifespan will go to the human you sacrificed yourself for. After this, Rem asserts Misa that she's not gonna fall in love with her easily, stating that she just never loved someone. However, that changes when it hits episode 25. Episode 25 is infamous in the Death Note fandom for not only changing the narrative and the characters, but also for L's death. However, when they talk about L's death, no one talks about Rem's death. Not only is she the reason L dies, but also is the reason Misa can live. Because of killing L, she directly extends Misa's life, because if L lived, he would have gotten Misa. This might just be because of a deal made with Light, but when you look at the subtext, Rem developed feelings for Misa and wanted her to live. This makes the viewer realize that not only are the Shinigamis human, sort of, but the humans are evil too, because when you think about it, it was Light who made this deal, and he couldn't care less about Rem herself. Despite their scary appearance, the Shinigami seem to have more compassion and more thought about who they hurt instead of the humans. With Shinigamis, they're supposed to kill, it's their duty as Shinigami. With humans such as Light, they choose to kill people, they choose to play God. This action of playing God while a god just watches is a scary view, as not only does it make the Shinigamis look weak and human despite their scary appearance, but it makes the humans more sinister, and the reality is, even though it's anime, they can be any one of us. Anyone could be Light Yagami. If anyone had the ability to kill someone whether they liked them or not, or just judge them, people will be speculative. You can either kill people who've done wrong, like criminals, but you can also kill people that try to defy you. And that's where Death Note makes a good sense of justice. Justice is flawed because there's no concrete evidence. Yes, there are people who does things morally bad, but not everyone wants to do something morally bad. Nevertheless, these characters don't really see the blur. They only see black and white, especially with Light, and especially with the next character I'm going to talk about. The character that was introduced so late but has a huge impact in the story, and also us in reality. Teru Mikami. By the way, this is the time to shout out my friend Mia, who's a huge Teru Mikami fan, so hi Mia, I hope you're enjoying this. Now come get your mans. Okay, let's continue. Originally just a prosecutor, Mikami had a strong sense of justice, so far that he celebrates his mom's death because she disagreed with him about bullies in school. Mikami's ruthless and yet a firm believer, going from a mere prosecutor to Kira's puppet. Mikami is a great reflection of Light. Ironic considering he's the reason Light dies. The difference between him and Demigawa, who was Light's follower, whatever cult he was practicing, was that Demigawa was trying to profit off of it and did not care for it, whereas Mikami truly did. Mikami is not only a puppet of Light, or not only the second antagonist of Death Note, but he's also a reflection of our darkest parts, more specifically the part of which when we only see one lens. When we see the world with only one lens and only have our ideology and belief and hold them to such a high standards, it's kind of dangerous, especially when you hear other people's ideologies and belief and reject them. It forms an echo chamber. This echo chamber can lead to harmful actions and irrational thought. What Mikami proves is that although we want to believe there is good in the world and we can easily delete the bad parts of the world, there's no such thing as we can't all universally decide that one is bad and the other thing is not. It's rather up for our interpretations, and that in turn judges us for our character. While Mikami is a good character story-wise, in his universe, he's not a good character. He is ruthless and cruel, despite the fact that he parades himself as a servant of God. This again shows the dramatic irony. While he may think he's the hero, the viewers would think otherwise. In fact, some even believing he's worse than Light himself. To wrap this video up, I bring up Mikami and Rem opposed to Light, L, and Nier, not only because they've been overanalyzed and back, but no one talks about these two and how genius they are. Death Note still gets talked about these days, not only because of nostalgia, but how good the characters are. What could have been done better by Light or L? What could have happened if Light won? And what characters were right and wrong, and many theories, many speculations, etc. What I'm trying to say is Death Note is unique because it implores the reader to think critically, understand each character's philosophy, understand what is the main goal of each character, and only then will you decide what's right or wrong. They are not given to you or spoon-fed like any other shonen mangas, but rather it tells you to rather think carefully, and only when you think precisely and understand the characters is when you truly find which is right or wrong. It still has a fan base today because many characters are enjoyable for such. You can't really penalize a character for being bad, but you can't also raise a character to a higher standard for doing something good. Each character is unique and fun, yet also having a darker side to them. But who's to say we, the people, don't have a darker side? And to be honest, that's all right. This is why Death Note is still a beloved masterpiece to this day. Alright, this was a short video, and when I say short, I mean compared to my other videos, but college is really hammering down. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, donate to my Ko-fi if you can, and thank you so much for watching. Also, hi to all my friends who love Death Note. I know you like this video. Have fun!